Hello and welcome to the Candlelight Podcast, where I, Mohamed Abdalla, talk about different topics, including some of my favorites, which are movies, martial arts, and philosophy. Let's start with this week's quote, guys. It's a quote in Arabic again, just like last week's. And before we start, actually, sorry that this episode came out a day late, because I am filming it a day later. Because circumstances, I guess. Or because laziness and sleep schedules kind of like flipping around. Anyway, it's my fault, guys. Hopefully it won't happen again. So, let's start with this week's quote. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَذُقْ مُرَّ التَّعَلُّمِ سَاعَةً تَذَرَّعَ ذُلَّ الْجَهْلِ طُولَ حَيَاتِهِ. So, let me give you the translation for that. Oh, and it's said by the famous Imam Ash-Shafi'i, rahimahullah. So, let me give you the translate version, the Google Translate version. And he who has not tasted the bitterness of having to strive to learn for an hour, the humiliation of ignorance befalls his whole life. So, basically, this quote is telling you, do the hard work now, and reap the benefits, the fruits of your labor for the rest of your life. Really just goes to show that, you need to do the work. You have to do the work. You have to suffer for at least a certain amount of time. It is suffering. You have to sit down and do your homework. You have to go to the gym and actually push yourself and exercise. You have to do what you have to do. Go to work, But at the end of the day, there's a reason to that. There's a reason you have to strive and struggle. You're going to have to work in order to get the benefits of work, to reap the fruits of your labor. And this kind of applies to me right now. It's a perfect it's a poem, by the way, and it's the perfect poem for me because I just started uni again, my last semester, hopefully, inshallah, and I should keep this quote, this poem in mind. This part of the poem. I'm not sure what we call it, what one would call it in English. When you got like one bait. It's one bait in Arabic, which is one line. It's not a stanza. Stanza is like a paragraph. I don't know what is one part of a stanza. The word kind of, my mind is blank on the word right now. So excuse me for that. And it's one bait from a poem, a shi'r from Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah. And the clinical psychologist, Dr. Jordan Peterson, says that it's crucial to use your youth to build yourself into a useful person. So, use the time you have. Use your youth and build yourself up. Make yourself someone useful to the world, to the people around you. Make sure that you're able to leave a fingerprint in this world, that you did something good. You impacted someone's life and made it better. And that requires work. You're not just going to sit around all day and just chat and make people's lives better. You have to actually live a somewhat of a principled life. You have to, do the work. You have to actually pull your own weight. And that's how people get inspired, not necessarily by words, but by actions. And that's how we should live our lives. And man, am I failing with this, especially with the idea, because of the idea that I'm actually recording this a day late. And you guys are listening to it a day late. So, sorry for that again. And but hey, the upside to that is actually I got to watch the UFC fights before I record this podcast, which we're going to talk about soon. So, but before we get into the UFC fights, I want to talk about a movie I watched, a DreamWorks movie that I watched recently this week. The movie Home. It came out years ago, and it's I didn't like it very much. It's very much a popcorn movie. You just watch it if you're bored. It's not really a movie that of so much substance. Not at least in my first viewing of it anyways, because it was very bland. It's just starring Rihanna, and she was a voice actor in the movie because it's an animated movie, and they just used a bunch of her songs throughout the movie, which is not necessarily a bad thing, for an artist to promote him or herself that way. But the weird thing is just the movie just didn't have anything going for it. Not anything emotional, nothing really of a solid plot, of solid voice acting. It's just not even comedy. Like, I laughed maybe once in that whole movie, and because it was a very well, they pulled off a joke, a punchline, almost literally a punch, very well. And it really landed, and I was like, oh, okay, that was funny. That was funny. And that's it. Just one laugh throughout the entire movie, which is supposed to be, which is supposed to be funny, which is supposed to be, really animated, really just eccentric and energized, but didn't have much going for it, sadly. And this was a movie I've had on the shelf for years. Actually, I knew about it ever since it came out, but I never did watch it. I was like, this doesn't look like a good movie. And I'm not usually 100% right when I think that. I'm just generally right most of the time. It's like this doesn't look like a good movie. And then I watch it, and it probably wasn't a good movie. And this was one of those cases. But sometimes I've been proven wrong. Like a movie that doesn't seem that good, I watch it and I'm just like blown away. And what would be an example of that? A movie I thought wouldn't be good, watched it, and then I was blown away. 2015, Pixar's Inside Out. That's the movie that finally convinced me that anything Pixar puts out every year is going to be gold and is a must-see. That movie was the one. I was like, all right, this poster looks fine. That trailer is okay. I'm not sure about the movie, though. And then I watched the movie, and then, wow, just Pixar with their creativity, it's just next level. Oh, and this is a funny comparison between Pixar movies and DreamWorks movies. Pixar movies are usually they're always, most of the time, it's like 90% of the time, more than 90% of the time, they're great movies. Like, great movies. A must-see. Almost every year. They've been lacking, I think, with this year's entry, which was, what was Coco? No, it wasn't Coco. It was Luca. Luca from Pixar this year sucked. But last year it was Onward, which was really good. And the year before that was Soul, which was really good as well. I talked about this before on this podcast. So yeah, it's Pixar just really hits home runs almost every single time they put out a movie, like 90% of the time. But then you've got DreamWorks, which is very hit, miss, and somewhere in the middle. When they miss, they miss. Like in Home, it wasn't that good of a movie. I'm not rewatching it again. Didn't have anything for me. And then there's something in the middle, which is, some people might get upset with this, but How to Train Your Dragon. I know a lot of people love that movie, but to me, that movie was a pretty good movie. All three, were pretty good movies, but they lacked that extra thing that would make them, one of the great movies. And I can point out what those are. Well, the main reason I don't put them as, I didn't enjoy them as much as I could have was the voice acting for the teenagers in the movie. They made all the adults with Scottish accents, which is awesome, but the teenagers just sounded like, nowadays Americans, which is just, it throws me off. It doesn't fit the movie, and it was just, didn't make it, just brought it that much down, I guess. So, there's that. But then, DreamWorks, the same company that misses and gets a pretty good movies going for them, hits not even a home run, it's an out of the stadium shot with great movies, like some of the best movies I've ever seen. And that, of course, is the Kung Fu Panda movies. The 3 Kung Fu Panda movies. Three of the, 3 making a one trilogy, one of the greatest movie franchises I've ever seen. Possibly the greatest, actually. I think I would say the greatest. And Kung Fu Panda 1 is just that movie the first time and the second time I watched it when I was a kid in the cinema. I went to it twice. It was wow. There's so much I've learned from that movie. That was a movie done right. A kid's movie done right. They didn't slack off because it was a kid's movie. No, they went, full thrust ahead with how good they can make it. They made it one of the best movies of all time, in my opinion. And and the second and third movie did not disappoint a bit, not one bit. Just as good as the first movie. And wow, yeah. I'm thinking, this is actually a cool segue for me to get into some of the ideas that are going through my head about what I'm going to do with this channel and what other YouTube opportunities I see out there for me that I can work on. So one of them is maybe I should, because, I've been talking about how I wanted to improve this podcast and make it into something which it kind of isn't right now, which is, And the ideas that I have in my head don't really befit a podcast per se. They befit more of a, content creation type YouTube channel, which, it's like something out of, these channels such as Every Frame a Painting, or, these informative and, or Nerd Writer, these channels that give you content with writing. Like, they have an actual written script and they read it out, and you can see visuals as you're listening to the narrator speak. And so that's the kind of channel I kind of want to do. And I really have some solid ideas for a bunch of stuff I want to talk about, including the Kung Fu Panda movies and why I think they're so great. I want to make video essays talking about why I think these movies are incredible and why they are, they have so many life lessons to teach, especially the young kids. And man, just so many insights from not only those movies, but from many other movies that I've come across. Braveheart, another example. And I really want to create a channel that's kind of like that. But I'm trying to think, is that the kind of image I want to put out of myself, about myself, the kind of guy that makes videos and talks about movies? But I already kind of talk about movies here, and not just movies, I talk about really anything on this podcast, and I like MMA, movies, philosophy, anything really comes to mind. And speaking of philosophy, we're going to get to that soon, actually. So yeah, that's the kind of YouTube channel I'm thinking of making. And in order to make that, I kind of have to put a stop kind of to the podcast. So the podcast won't be, the weekly thing that's coming out to YouTube. It's going to be that channel. I'm going to keep the podcast channel still there. I'm not going to delete it. All the episodes are going to remain. And I'm thinking of actually, transitioning away from podcasting for a bit and building a brand online that talks about films and some, philosophy and some mixed martial arts, even in a more scripted and well-planned and plotted way that makes it better, more digestible for people, instead of, having to listen to a 30-minute podcast every week. Rather, they watch maybe a 10-minute video explaining, something that I find useful. And it's going to be very refined. Like right now, I'm just kind of like rambling away. I'm just like talking and speaking from my heart. And I'm just kind of like saying things, just words are going all over the place. Word salad. But with that kind of YouTube channel, I'm going to be able to refine and edit my essays in order to read them so that every single point I want to make, I make it as clearly as I possibly could. I articulate it as, concisely as I possibly could. So that's what I'm thinking of doing. I think that befits me more, because the podcast thing is not really going so well for me right now, because I don't have 2-3 viewers. That's it. And not necessarily saying, this podcast thing is never going to work out because, I'm not getting any viewers in the first year of me podcasting. No, I know it takes a grind for someone to, get successful, especially with this podcast, with a podcast platform. But I'm thinking a podcast platform may not have been the best idea to start with. Maybe I should have, built a brand online, did something interesting, something unique, and then maybe after I get some sort of following, people kind of are interested in what I'm doing and want to learn more about what things the thoughts that run through my head and what I kind of like to talk about and discuss and try to, convey to people. They would then tune into the podcast, which would be after. It would be kind of debuted after I have made a content creation channel. So, this is kind of like an observation I made and thought that I'm having in my head of, transitioning from the podcast to the content creation and then slowly back into the podcast after I've, gained some level of success. But hey, that's just me for now, and I'm not really, planning on doing anything still. But those are just ideas there that are on paper. They sound great to me, and I think I can pull them off. But I think with the fact that I just started university, with the fact that I just started taking courses again. One of them includes philosophy, by the way. I'm taking a philosophy course right now, which I'll talk to you guys in a second about. So yeah, I don't think I'm gonna have the time to actually create a content creation channel, which is going to take a lot of my time. It's going to take time to write, refine, and then, record video, edit, and do all sorts of things that required to make a good video, a solid good video, not some mishmash of collages and whatever type product and throw it out there. No, I want it to be something good, something respectable. So that's my idea, and I do have a background in this. I took a course in university that taught me basically exactly how to do something exactly like this, and I've done pretty well in that course, really well, and I'd like to try to apply it in real life and see how the people would like it. So let's see how we're doing on time. Actually, I've rambled a lot. Oh my god, it's 16 minutes already. Man, it's wow. I did not think I would talk this long, and I had a bunch more to talk about this week. I guess, yeah. So you guys have what I had in mind, and what's next for me. So I've taken a philosophy course actually this semester, and I've only got 3 courses, but they're all like high level and require a lot of my attention because that's it. I'm graduating. That's all I have left, high level courses that I need to finish, and one of them is an elective, and it's a philosophy course, and it's philosophy to do with what was the title of it? I think it's modern politics or something. Political philosophy. That's right. So we're talking about 3 main philosophers in this course, which are Thomas Hobbes, Karl Marx, and I believe Jean-Jacques Rousseau. 3 of which that shaped modern society in the West, and 3 very interesting figures, obviously. So I'm really and we're running through like their works right now. It's like we already have a good grasp on the ideas of Hobbes already, even though it's just been the first week that we've just finished, and of course the class today as well on Sunday. And man, it's really interesting, and I'm engaged, and I really hope I do well because I like philosophy, and this is really my cup of tea. But it is a somewhat bitter cup of tea in the sense that there's a lot to process, there's a lot to understand, there's a lot to make sure you don't make silly mistakes in, like I did in my previous philosophy course in the very beginning of it. Very subtle nuances that you have to look out for in philosophy so that you don't misrepresent anyone's views, and rather explain the views correctly, express them and convey them correctly so that people understand what this philosopher at that time thought. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this course, and the 2 other courses are design practicum, the design practicum, and it's kind of like a complex course that I don't want to really go into right now because of time. And the 3rd course is digital fabrication, which is a demanding course as well, because I'm gonna have to be able to understand how to use different methods of creating, and not necessarily creating it's like videos, no, creating art, like how different tools that I can use to create art in a way that's very unique. For example, using like an example I actually came across was Simon Berger. Check this guy out. He's making portraits, faces, using only a hammer and glass, laminated glass. And what he does is take pictures of models to be, the portrait, to be the models for the portrait picture that he wants to, basically draw, I guess, on the glass by using the hammer to break the face onto the glass. It's very interesting. Look him up. Simon Berger. Dude does crazy artwork. He's truly one of a kind, and he's a kind of like a very unique artist in that way. He uses a very special tool that no one else does. Only he does. Check him out. Pretty interesting work. I hope I did him justice with the way I explained his work, but I don't think I did. So, we don't have that much time. We're near the 20-minute mark. Let's talk about some of MMA news. I'm going to skip over what I saw on YouTube this week, even though I did see some interesting things. I'm going to skip over that and talk about MMA news because we don't have that much time. And before we start talking about MMA, we should talk about Tyron Woodley versus Jake Paul, the boxing fight. So, this is just disappointing. Jake Paul won. He won the decision. And Tyron allowed him to win the decision by not beating him, which, let me explain. Tyron almost beat him in the fourth round by knocking him, staggering him. So he had him staggered, but after he got him with a good shot staggering him, he did not go in for the kill, did not go in for the finish. He just let him recuperate and recover. So, Tyron, you're not going to win the decision. You have to knock him out to win. But, man, he didn't do it. And he lost the fight in the end of the day. Even Wonderboy was frustrated with the performance. And Wonderboy fought Tyron twice. And he knows how good Tyron is. And, man, even he was, visibly frustrated with the performance. So, yeah. But at the end of the day, Tyron's the fighter. And I'm just chilling here and not even attending jiu-jitsu classes anymore. Because, a mixture of COVID, and I kind of am focusing on bodybuilding right now. Not necessarily professional bodybuilding, just me going to the gym every day. So, So basically, my schedule right now, if I didn't already tell you guys about it, it's like I go to the gym every day except for Friday, which I just do cardio on. So it's that's how the schedule is, and I'm doing really well. Better than I've ever done before, with regard to going to the gym specifically. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Been getting in good shape. And okay, let's talk about MMA. The fight card that just happened just now with Darren Till and Derek Brunson being the main event. So first of all, UFC newcomer from Cage Warriors, a champion in Cage Warriors, just debuted in the UFC in a spectacular first fight. Let me just tell you, it's like Paddy the Batty Pimblett, a Scouser, just like Darren Till from Liverpool, England, fought against Luigi Vendramini in his debut fight in the UFC. So this guy's been getting a lot of hype behind him, a lot of media coverage, and we didn't even see him fight in the UFC once until today. And then he fights, and man, his fighting is exciting, first of all, but not top tier, not a top contender level, not a champion level fighter. When I say that, I mean his skills. By the way, he's at lightweight, the most dangerous, deadliest, most unforgiving division in the whole UFC, in the whole of MMA, the lightweight division. Everyone in the top 15 is a killer, is a pure killer. And after what I've seen from his performance tonight, I don't think he's going to make it. But hey, let me break down what happened. He won the fight. But in the first 2 minutes, he got rocked, almost got finished, but he was able to, thrust and fight and be able to recover. And then the last minute of the very first round, he knocked the other guy out. He was able to stagger him and then knock him out, which was a good comeback. And but it was a good fight, a good win, but it wasn't an impressive win in the sense that, this guy doesn't seem to be cut out this guy doesn't seem to be UFC material. He has a loud mouth. He has a personality that's very, attractive to the viewer, but I don't see him making it. But he's gonna be there for, and have some fun and have some good fights, have some good shows, put on some good shows. So yeah, looking forward to his future. But even though I don't think he's gonna be a top contender with the skills that I've seen him display. And next fight I want to talk about in this fight card was Khalil Rountree versus Modestas Bakauskas. I hope I didn't butcher the other guy's name. And the reason I bring up this fight was because of how it ended. And Khalil, he stomped Modesta's knee in, causing a leg stomp TKO. He kept stomping on the leg for a few rounds, I think. I'm not sure which round the fight ended, but then the last stomp was bad. It kind of turned his knee in, and he had to, and he was knocked down. He couldn't, stay up. And then Herb Dean straight away noticed that this guy couldn't fight or barely even stand anymore, so he jumped in and stopped the fight. Good call, Herb Dean. And wow, it was like a very scary, like, oh, that looked like it hurt. Not only that, that looks like a bunch of injuries all in one. A lot of surgeries needed there. And man, and that sparked kind of a little debate on Reddit and other forums where people were thinking about, even Kelvin Gastelum, were thinking about thinking of the idea of banning the leg stomp, stomp to the knee, because of how dangerous it is and how it can destroy someone's knee and cause them to have many surgeries. But at the end of the day, this is MMA. You have to make it as no holds barred as possible. As long as it's not dirty fighting, eye pokes, groin strikes, I think it should be fair game. Even maybe 12 to 6 elbows even. Excuse me. Because you want to see how well you can do in a fight that's no holds barred. Up until, of course, dirty fighting. So, very interesting things. Very interesting, ending to that fight. And then you've got the main event, Brunson versus Till. And man, Brunson dominated and got the submission win at the third round. So the first 2 rounds was just Brunson, dominating by wrestling and pinning Till to the ground and laying some ground and pound. And then the third round, Till was able to actually rock to stagger Brunson. And once he tried to go in for the kill, Brunson straight away took him down, sat in mount, and was able to take his back and submit him, all while rocked. Like within a minute of getting rocked, that all happened basically. So it was like a disappointing performance by Till, but of course he's the fighter, not me, so I can't tell him, hey, that was a bad fight, you should have done this and that. It's not far be it for me to tell a professional fighter what to do. And so Brunson won spectacularly, really. He maybe not have had a knockout, but he did have a good submission win against Darren Till, who is a top 10 contender. And I think it puts him in line to fight one more top 5 contender and then fight for a title shot. I'm thinking maybe he should face Jared Cannonier, who just beat Kelvin Gastelum. That's a good fight to make. And whoever wins that fight goes on to fight the winner of Whitaker and Adesanya. Very interesting fight. Except if Whitaker wins, that's going to be an immediate rematch with Adesanya, I'm pretty sure. But I think Adesanya's got this one, sadly, even though I'm rooting for my boy, Bobby Knuckles. But hey, there's that. So, and guys, as good as the fights we have seen have been lately, the UFC has been leaving us wanting more with this gap between pay-per-views and meaningful fights. Guys, there hasn't been a meaningful fight in a while. And I'm going to end with this. It's been boring for the past few weeks, and man, has it been just, having to see, it's just, fight night after fight night after fight night. And the last pay-per-view was an interim title fight. Not even a meaningful title fight. It's, ever since UFC 264, it's not, or at least ever since Islam Makhachev's fight, or Corey Sandhagen and Dillashaw's fight, it's not been, that meaningful, it didn't, but there were pretty good fights, not gonna lie. And guys, next week there's not even a card, and the week after that there's a card with Anthony Smith fighting on it, and he's the main event. We don't even know what the main card for that is. And then there's UFC 266, which is an interesting card with Nick Diaz returning and Volkanovski, but then that's it. We have to wait a lot. But don't worry, we've got UFC 268 coming up, and that's going to be a banger. With that said, guys, this was the Candlelight Podcast by yours truly, Mohamed Abdalla. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you come back for more. And once again, shoot, where's it? I don't want to do it before the camera shuts off. And he who has not tasted the bitterness of having to strive to learn for an hour, the humiliation of ignorance befalls his whole life. See you guys in the next one. Peace.